Okay, let's go for a presentation on equality and diversity management in EPSO. So what I would like to do here is share with you our equality and diversity policy and concrete management. So as you can see on this slide, at EPSO we believe in talent regardless of their differences. It's very important for us to ensure that the institutions offer equal opportunities to everybody and reflect the diversity of today's world. In order to do so, we uphold the following principles and objectives that you can read on the slide. So it's very important that in our selection procedures, we ensure equal treatment and access to all candidates, regardless of their differences, as I was telling you. But also respect EPSO's values and inclusion in the selection procedures and provide all candidates with an equal opportunity to fully demonstrate their competencies. And this we do by identifying and eliminating their blocking factors, possible biases and risks of discrimination. And I will tell you later on how we do this. We also promote equal opportunities, and we want to engage with various stakeholders, groups and experts, organizations that support and serve the same interests, because they will be able to help us reach out to different diversity groups. And finally, the main idea is to increase diversity in the talent pool and help the EU civil service to be representative of the diversity of the EU citizens we serve. So how do we do this concretely? So on this slide, you can see the diversity management model that we are using. It's a Danish model. You have the references on the slide. It's the MIA model for diversity management. And as you can see, this model is both rights-based, but also resources-oriented. And this is exactly why I like it so much. It's very dynamic, it never stops. And it focuses both on ensuring non-discrimination and ensuring quality, promoting equal opportunities, but also it focuses on actual people. So the idea is really to increase the diversity capital and to employ diversity, and I would even say retain diversity, which is much more challenging. And we will discover that in a second. So some concrete actions. How do we do this actually? How do we bring this model into life? So the first phase is to ensure equal opportunities, treatment and non-discrimination in our selection procedures. So on this slide, you can see a couple of actions. They're actually much more than this. But one of the main actions is to implement, for example, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In this context, EPSO has adopted a very ambitious plan in order to implement the convention. And we are intensively working, for example, on improving the accessibility of both our communication, but also our selection processes and procedures. Ensuring neutrality of test items and selection procedures is also a very serious and key point for us. So we're doing this by performing systematic statistical analysis of item performance and behavior. And if we observe any adverse impact, we will block these items, for example, and we will never use them again. So the idea is really to monitor everything that we are doing in order to ensure neutrality of test items and exercises that we're using. Another very important point is to guarantee reasonable accommodations for candidates with disabilities and special needs. And in this field, I can proudly say that we've had the opportunity to develop an expertise, and I am regularly benchmarking against the international best practices in order to make sure that we are up to date in this field as well. I will tell you more about our procedure in a minute. We are also performing systematic equality, diversity and accessibility screenings. As I was saying at the beginning, the idea is really to identify any potential bias or risk of discrimination in order to really ensure neutrality and equality for all. As you've seen already in the EPSO Academy presentation, the idea is to fully equip board members and assessors to ensure equal treatment when they're assessing candidates. And this is where they will receive all kinds of tips and tricks and tools in order to do so. For example, I've developed guidelines, interview guidelines on how to conduct an interview with all kinds of candidates suffering from different disabilities and medical conditions. Also, but this is like a more general action, is to really use standardized objective assessment methods, use only standardized evaluation grades, application forms, perform anonymized CV screenings, collect systematic feedback from the candidates in order to be able to identify whether any biases or discrimination occurred. So all of these actually help us in ensuring equal opportunities treatment and non-discrimination. And something to come in the future is this equality and diversity monitoring tool, with the main idea of collecting some more statistics and data on diversity. This is something that we do not do today. We do have data on age, nationality, languages, citizenship, but we do not collect data on different diversity target groups. So the idea is here to implement a form, a questionnaire on voluntary basis, inviting candidates to declare themselves as being part of different diversity groups, which will allow us to identify potential gaps in terms of representation of different diversity groups based on their actual representation in the member states. The idea being to better reflect the diversity of the citizens we serve, but also to monitor progress and how we deal with people. Do we treat everybody equally, actually? So when we will have this data, we will be able to actually monitor progress from the selection stage throughout the whole selection and recruitment, but also throughout their career, and check whether everybody had the same career opportunities. So this is a big project coming up soon. So I told you about this reasonable accommodations procedure for candidates with disabilities, and on this slide you can see how the procedure looks like. So this is a 5+1 step procedure, which starts with the communication. So it's very important for us, to communicate to candidates having a disability or a medical condition about what is possible. What are the different measures, how they can request reasonable accommodations, and what they will actually receive. So it's very important to be transparent and to demystify this in order to allow them to not be afraid to actually ask for special accommodations. This is very important. The second step is the registration period and requesting reasonable accommodations. So in their application form, they will be asked whether they need any special accommodations of the selection process, and they will be asked to fill in a very detailed information form on disability and special needs to allow us to analyze their needs and to offer them special accommodations. The third step is the analysis. So we have an EPSO accessibility team in charge of analyzing and defining reasonable accommodations for candidates with special needs. And once we have analyzed and defined this, we will organize the whole session, and then people will be provided with special accommodations. What is very important that after each adapted test selection, they will be able to give us their feedback on their satisfaction, how it went, whether they needed more. And this is a part of our quality control, and this will allow us to improve continually our practices. So the key principles of this reasonable accommodations procedures are the following. So the idea is really to provide all applicants with an equal opportunity to fully demonstrate their competencies. So we will really focus on what are the obstacles for them in a very specific testing situation based on their disability and their special needs in a specific situation. Inclusion is a top principle for us. This means that we will not organize separate competitions for candidates with disabilities and special needs. So we will not alter the nature or the level of qualifications assessed. Everybody will be asked to pass the same test. They will be evaluated according to the same expectations, thresholds, etc. This is very important. Reasonable accommodations will be defined on a case-by-case basis. This is very important. We consider candidates with disabilities as experts of their disabilities. They know what they need. So they will tell us exactly per type of test, per type of support used, per type of questions they're asked to answer, the type of obstacles and the type of adjustments they would need. Then we will define these accommodations according to our expertise, the internal one, but also external one. We cannot know everything, of course, so each time that we are confronted with a new disability, with a new symptom, something that we don't know, we will, of course, consult external experts, and we will anonymize the data, of course. And we will define these accommodations finally according to the international best practices as well. There will be, of course, a respect for confidential personal data. This is highly sensitive, so we will never communicate this data to the hiring services. And then the last principle is about proportionality. So it's really important that this doesn't create a disproportionate burden. But so far, we've never really refused any accommodation. So just for your information, on this slide, you can see the basis for the reasonable accommodations definition. So it's not just something that we come up with or we just give candidates whatever they want. We will base our analysis on the different information. So the type of disability and condition, different symptoms and obstacles they encounter in a testing situation, the supporting documentation they will provide us with, our in-house expertise, as I was telling you, but also external expertise and the best practices, but also, and most importantly, the type of test and support. Of course, you will not grant the same accommodations if the test is on a computer, if they have to write something manually, or if they have to analyze something on paper, of course. And the type of answers they are asked to provide. Is it only ticking, or do they really have to handwrite something, or if it's an oral test, for example. So all of these will be taken into account. The second phase of the model was to promote equal opportunities and treatment and access to all. So how do we do this? So only when you're sure that you are actually ensuring equal opportunities and treatment, you can start promoting this and attracting talent from diversity groups. So the idea is really to inform and demystify as much as possible about what we do in this field. And I will show you in a second our website where we give lots of information about what we're doing in this field. So what we did is revamping the Equal Opportunities webpage, and we made it fully accessible to everybody. So we are screening it on accessibility, and when something is not fully accessible, we create accessible formats to assistive technology. We encourage candidates from diversity target groups to apply. So what we do here is that we reach out to them via expert organizations and diversity communication channels. And we're now actually adopting a targeted communication plan aiming at attracting more talent with disabilities, which is in line with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Because one of the recommendations was for the institutions to recruit more talent with disabilities, and this is where EPSO has a huge role to play in attracting more talent with disabilities, and this is where I developed a series of communication actions in order to reach out better to this diversity target group and attract them in order to apply more. So here you can see how our Equal Opportunities webpage looks like, and you can go and visit our website to discover a bit more about our philosophy, our policy, but also and mostly about our actions. You can also discover the testimonies of our colleagues with disabilities, and they're also available on Facebook, as we have what we call staff ambassadors and EU career ambassadors who are there to promote EU careers. And they also talk about this and they share their experience with people. The third phase of the model is to increase diversity. So this is a key point. And actually, if you consider the model, if you succeed in completing step 1 and step 2, which is ensuring non-discrimination and promoting equal opportunities, without any doubt, and I've done this in the past a couple of times and it really works, this will result in a bigger number of people from different diversity groups applying. So this is where EPSO can also help as a center of expertise in equality and diversity, because not every institution has the possibility to invest in this. So we can be there to help them, to advise them on how to do this, how to manage equality and diversity, how to prepare the workplace to welcome diversity and to make sure that everybody is respected. This is also where different institutions can adopt eventually positive actions and targeted communication actions. But what we're lacking here is a monitoring tool, because we do not know how many people from diversity groups we actually attract, and how many pass a competition, and how many are recruited. And this is why we are now developing this equality and diversity monitoring tool, which will really allow us to better monitor everything. And this will also result in a better collaboration with the institutions and with the member states as well, which can help us actually attract more talent from the different groups. Finally, the fourth phase is about employing and retaining diversity. And this is where institutions and hiring services play a key role. EPSO can do whatever we want actually to ensure non-discrimination in the selection processes, in our communication. We can attract people, we can go for targeted communication campaigns, we can increase the diversity capital in the applicant pool. But there is not much we can really do in order to make sure that actually people from diversity groups are recruited. This is the role of our stakeholders, of our institutions. And this is where, again, we need this monitoring tool, because it will really allow us to identify gaps in recruitment, and in representation with respect to their actual representation in their member states. But we are working on this. So this is in brief a bit what I wanted to share with you on our equality and diversity management. I'm available for more information, more concrete details about our management, but also our colleagues in the room will be able to answer your questions. Thank you.